Hi, how are you doing? I hope you're having a very interesting summer. I know I am, and I have a really super duper interesting video that I've prepared for you guys. It's all about the card story. Dun dun dun. Okay, the thing is, in my book, the book called Tarot Reading Using Storytelling Techniques, which is available on Amazon and Kindle. Go buy it now. Right. So in this book, in this book, I have outlined a method called the card story, which you can use to get into the story of each card. And by story, I'm saying that because every card has a picture on it, and a picture is worth 1,000 words, maybe even more. The point is, a picture tells a story just like that. Just by being there, a picture, you can look at an image and you can totally get into the story. That's the whole point. That's why tarot cards are so much fun, right? And that's why this method, this card story method, is kind of the basis of the storytelling method that I have taught in my book here. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to totally share this method with you guys, because I think the whole world needs to know how awesome it is. The whole So who's this, who is this sort of targeted for? It's for people who have absolutely zero knowledge of what tarot is all about, but sorry, excuse me, who are totally looking forward to learning it. Okay, so the genuine advice for a complete novice is maybe get a nice book, a good book with meanings on it, the Eden Grey book. I will put a link in the description below. I have written a blog post where I totally go into the systematic approach, learn tarot on a shoestring budget. I wrote that blog post a while back, and I think it's awesome, because if you're one of those people who likes to learn on their own, at their own pace, you don't want to join a class and this and that, that's fine. That's totally cool. I think tarot comes to different people in different ways, right? So without the whole, the link will be there in the description, so take a look, go there and check out the Eden Grey book. Forgetting the name. I just remember the author names. Eden Grey book about tarot. That's a good place. That's a really good book to start off with. And so you can buy this book, and you can use this method. Okay. Ideally, if you're starting from zero, start with the universal weight or rider weight deck, which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It's a great sort of baseline to start off with. Then this method is also useful. It can also really open up the cards for people who already know the meanings of the cards and who want to go deeper, right? Who want to really explore all the symbolism, who want to explore all the mythic links, the whole connections, the whole the story, what's brewing under the surface kind of thing for the card image. So this method also works for them. The other sort of person who this method can really be helpful for is someone who is very familiar with the universal weight or the rider weight, or thereabout, that sort of that template, so to speak, and you want to explore other decks. You want to pick up other decks. You are attracted to some other imagery, and you want to really get into that deck. But then you're like, you read the book maybe, or you have the book for the deck maybe, but then you are like, how do I go to how do I do this? What do I do? So this is a method you can use along with journaling, and whatever your learning process is, whether it's journaling, whether it's meditation. But this card story method will come in handy for all, I would say, levels of learners of the tarot. All right, so I'm not gonna sit here and yabber. I'm just gonna stop this recording, and I will record the awesome presentation I have put together a little while ago, and totally show off my, my keynote skills, and, fun with animation. And you guys can watch that video, and I will come back after that video. So see you in a bit. Bye. I bet you've often wondered, what is the key? What is the secret? What is the main sort of core or crux to learning uh, how to read tarot cards? And you've probably looked around, you've seen all these decks, you've seen all these books, you've seen all these blogs, and you've seen all these people talk about all such, right, really deep stuff. You have astrology, you have psychology, you have symbolism. There's so much. It's mind boggling, it's baffling, and especially for a beginner this can be very intimidating. And so even if you want to really get into the cards, it gets scary right at the outset. You wonder what to do, what to expect, what's going on, and how do you go about studying in a way that is more smoother, and it will allow you to flow more easier into all these various interconnected sort of realms that tarot sort of brings up. So today I'm going to talk about a very simple, really, process at looking at the images on the cards, that even if you don't get too complicated, or even if you don't look at it in a very deep way, like even if you are a beginner and you look at it from a very simple perspective, and then later as you go deeper, as you study more, you can use the same process. This process, as they say, scales to from simple to complicated depending on where you're at in your learning process. And you can use this simple way of looking at the card to get into the card's imagery and what it's trying to say. And it is a very simple process. It's called the card story. It involves looking into the image of the tarot card and getting at the crux or the core or the story that the card is trying to say. And why story? I mean, what's the whole point with the whole story angle? It's simple. We are all storytellers. All of us in our day to day lives like to share, like to tell stories. Now, even if you may say, "Oh, but Madhvi, we're not authors like you. We don't write all this, novels and such." That's okay. You don't have to be a novelist or a short story writer to be a storyteller. You are a storyteller. All of us are storytellers. Okay, I mean, all of us meet up with our friends. We like to hang out with our friends, and then when we do hang out, we share stories with them, don't we? We tell them, by the way, when I was coming here today, blah blah blah, this happened, or this guy, or this person, what's going on with him. And when you start like that, when you share incidences or experiences with each other like that, you are telling a story. You might enhance it a little bit, and all of us are guilty of doing that, so I'm not going to ever run away from that. I'm not going to pretend that I never do it. Maybe you spice it up a little bit. You want to make it interesting. You want to put it in a way that that all your friends will, around the table, everybody sort of leans in and listens to what you have to say. What are you doing? You are telling a story, right? Now this is like when you are in surrounded by your friends, by your family even, or by other people. But we also do that online. When we get on to Facebook, when we get on to Twitter or Instagram, we have some, most of the times we also put a photograph to go with the story. Look at this weird car that dashed onto me, and then you take a picture and you add on to the whole story. Or you have videos about stuff, and you you share your experience like that. And then what happens on Facebook? People lean in on the virtual table, they lean in, they like, or nowadays you have all these different reaction buttons, the love and the hate and the sad and the angry and whatever. So people react to your stories, they comment on your stories, they share your story. So even in the virtual world, it is very much true. All of us are storytellers. Anybody with a Facebook feed, for example, is a storyteller. Anybody who wants to go hang out with friends and share some experiences, we are all storytellers, right? And this is a talent that we all have. Just like intuition, all of us have it, but we maybe just don't notice it. But the moment you start noticing it, it you can work on it and you can grow it, you can develop it. So especially if you want to get into tarot card reading, this ability, this storytelling ability, comes in super duper handy. So today, what I'm going to show you through some examples, through some specific steps, is I'm going to show you a method, a very simple method really, of looking at the cards and understanding the story of the cards, so that later on when you get into actually doing readings or spreads, or even if you want to just pull out one card and look at it and see what the story is and what it's trying to tell you, you are able to do so, right? So the very first thing, obviously, that we're going to look at is the image on the cards, because that's the whole point. That's where everything sort of begins. Now, to the right on the screen, what I've put there is a blank sort of canvas, and I'm going to show you by example what's happening here. Is we're going to look at the card image, right? And the card image usually, typically, has three main parts. Any tarot card, pick up a tarot card from a deck near you, look at the image, and see, compare that with what's going to happen on the screen here. I'm going to show off my keynote skills, but yeah, keynote animation skills. But apart from that, let's look at the three basic components of the card image. We have the environment, we have the person, and we have the symbols. The environment is essentially what is going on in the background, or the landscape in the background of the card. So in this particular example, we just saw this little mountain, and now we have a sun there, and oh, a cloud. What else? A tree. So all of this forms the background of a card. Now, if you look at any card, I'm not saying these same elements are going to be there, because this is just an example, but there will be elements which are in the background, what's going on there, right? What's happening in the landscape behind it. See, this is important because this talks about the environment. So whatever is happening within the image of the card is happening in this environment, which is described by all these images there, right? And of course, we have a person, because that's the whole point. Inside, in the image, we have a person. Now, in this image here, we have this stick figure person, because I'm not necessarily a very great artist, or someone with skills like that. But if you look at him, right, you see this guy, maybe he looks like he's dancing, he's got a smile on his face, that one's for certain, and he looks pretty happy. So maybe he's there in this picture, he's found the tree maybe that he was looking for, and he's super happy, or because it's a bright sunny day, he's really happy. Who knows? Like, that is your interpretation. That is where your skills come in, really, and that is where your intuition will play the part. And the moment you see the picture, what are the feels you get? Oh, look, he's happy, he's joyful because it's a great sunny day. All right, go with that, right? And the third, obviously, the component of the card image is the symbols. In this case, we've got the sun, the cloud, the mountain, the tree. These are the symbols. Now there'll be symbols on the person as well, but just right now the stick figure doesn't have it. But you'll probably see his dress, you'll probably see stuff, that he's wearing, or he's doing, or he's holding, and those will be the symbols. All of these, symbols are spread up both in the environment and on the person. So all of these symbols mean something. And it's fairly straightforward, it's fairly logical, really, understanding the meaning of these symbols, right? The sun, for example, every time the sun rises in the sky, we have a new day, and the sunlight is obviously clarity, because in the sunlight you can see things clearly compared to the night where it's dark, and so you need moonlight, but moonlight is not as, not, it doesn't like light everything up compared to the sun. So that's the comparison. And the cloud, it brings rain, but the cloud can also obscure the sun if it moves a little bit, to the right. And then mountains stand for hardships, mountains stands for goals that you have to reach, maybe. And then you have the tree there. A tree can be a symbol of growth, a symbol of shade, it's a place where you get fruits maybe from the tree. So all of this. So various symbols have various different interpretations. You put it all together, and if follow what is, like I said, the first thing you feel when you see the picture. Now when I'm looking at this picture right now, I say, oh, it's a great sunny day, and this guy was maybe looking for this tree and he found it, and so he's happy. Your interpretation is going to be a little bit different, maybe, and that's fine. That's the whole point with tarot. But these are the basic components of the card image: the environment, the person, and the symbols. And once you have these, once you've figured what these are all about, it's very straightforward to put together the story. So now that we've looked at the different components of a card image, let's do a few examples so so things are a little bit clearer for us. The first example obviously is about the environment. So we're going to look at the background, we're going to look at the landscape elements, and we're going to see obviously the symbols that are in there and see what they are, what they stand for. All right, and the process is fairly straightforward. I'm going to be doing that with you. So if you want, you can go grab a pen and paper, all right, and make a few notes. So if you want to pause this video and do that, that's fine. Just make a very quick list of the things that you see in the background, in the landscape elements of this particular card. I hope you've made your list. It shouldn't be a big list, really. It's just a quick um, bullet point list. Yes. So let's see what is in this particular card here. First and foremost, this. Oh, my drawing skills. Okay, hang on. First and foremost, we have this little golden shiny thing that's in the sky in the background. If you look closely, it resembles a crown, and the crown is a symbol of the ego, and this crown is shining. So which means that, and it's not on the angel's head, mind you, it's there in the background in the sky. So it's something he has maybe left behind. It's his ego which he has dropped, and that has now turned so beautiful, and it is shining, and it's kind of lighting his path, so to speak. And talking about path, we have a path right here. You see that? This is the path he's walked on. This is the path that he has, spent all this time, and he's taken this long path to come here. This angel, this person from the card, that he's standing there, yes, but he has walked this whole path. He's come a long way to be where he's at today. And we also see these. Oh, my drawing skills are amazing, aren't they? So we also see these flowers. These are called the iris flowers. I just quickly googled this and went on to the Wikipedia page for the goddess Iris. If you guys are online right now, simply just open a new tab in your browser and go on to goddess Iris. Just Google that and you should pop up, a Wikipedia page should pop up about Iris. And Iris is the goddess of the rainbow. And just the top little bit here, in Greek mythology, Iris is the personification of the rainbow and messenger of the gods. She is also known as one of the goddesses of the sea and the sky. Iris links the gods to humanity. She travels with the speed of wind from one end of the world to the other and into the depths of the sea and the underworld. So, bottom line, Iris is kind of a messenger goddess, and she links the gods to humanity. So, when these iris flowers, and especially she's the goddess of both the sea and the sky, right? Because obviously, like a rainbow, connects both these elements. So, if you just, and there's of course a whole lot more that you can read about Iris. But, let's just stick with what we see in the first little bit on the Wikipedia page and how it, falls within the context of this card here. So, Iris here these flowers are a message of joy, maybe a message, or they're linking him, and this person is now shown up as an angel, so he's kind of the link between humanity and gods. And this is Iris, this is the goddess Iris here, right at the edge of the water, right, the pond there where he's standing, so connecting that. So there's obviously divine messengers or divine messages that are coming into play here. So what have we got here in the background? We've got ego, which has been left behind, a long path that has been traveled to come to where he's at, and there's definitely a divine connection or a connection from the divine. So whatever he is, going on with him, there's a lot of connection with the gods or with the divine energies. Okay, so that's so much we can glean from the environment itself. All right, now hang on, let's look at another example, and here let's analyze the person. Okay, so when we look at the person, what we're going to pay attention to is his dress, what he's doing, the activity, and obviously the symbols that are there that will add value to this process. And we're going to also look at the meaning we're going to derive from this. So like before, just make a very quick bullet list of what you see and what stands out in these areas, and then we'll come back for the analysis. Okay, so let's see, what's the first thing? He's an old man. You can make that out based on, oh my god, my drawing skills. Okay, so you can figure that out. If you notice, he's got a totally white beard and white hair. So from that, you can figure out he's an old man. And here, this age scenario has been specifically sort of highlighted to show the fact that he's old and wise because he has so much experience of life. Then notice his dress. Okay, there's no point coloring it here like this, right? His dress. He's wearing robes that are covering him up completely, right? And that dress is gray in color. Now, gray is again a very intense sort of color there. It's not necessarily black, it's not necessarily white, it's an in between or a mixture of black and white. And here, black and white, in especially in the tarot, black and white represent opposites. Because, when you're using imagery to convey things, colors also gain meaning. Black and white in this context are used to convey the opposing forces. And gray is a mixture of both. So either it can be a mixture of both the opposing forces, or you can even interpret it as something that is away or detached or apart from these opposing forces. Then in his hand he holds this lantern. This lantern has a six-pointed star. The six-pointed star is often connected with the Star of David. But what I think that the six-pointed star, and this is my personal interpretation of it, six-pointed star is a combination of two triangles. Let me see now if I can draw this properly. You have one triangle that points upwards, which is the, hang on, one triangle that points upwards, which is called, is the male sort of energy that represents male energy, and then you have another triangle that points downwards, which represents the female energy. And although my drawing skills are horrible, you will recognize that this also makes a six-pointed star. So this star represents the combination of the male and the female energy here, right here. And that is what this particular star often represents to me, the combination of male and female energy. Why is that important? Because male and female energy, when they combine, they create, they give rise to creation. So he's holding all this potential creative power in this particular lantern that he's holding in his hand. And he's using that light that is emanating from it, he uses that to show the way. So he holds that, he contains that within that lantern, that energy, and he uses that energy to light his way. So, and again he holds in his hand this wand. It's this is a golden wand that he's holding. Golden again represents full of knowledge. Even black wands are all about knowledge, and especially within the context of this particular deck. So if we were to now combine all of this, we see an old man, a wise man, a wise old man, who is maybe removed or detached from everything. He holds the potential of so much creative power within his hands, and he uses the knowledge and the wisdom of that power, that energy, to show the way. Yay, we've actually interpreted this, haven't we? So now let's look at another example where we're going to look at the symbols. Now symbols, as we've seen, are spread out over both the environment and the person. So let's look at the symbols in the Empress card. Obviously in the background you have all these trees. We know trees are a symbol of growth, of prosperity, of abundance, fruits, shade, all of that. Then we also have this little water body here, this little river that's flowing. Water is all about emotions. Water is all about feelings, and they're flowing, right? Then in the foreground we have growing crops, right? Crops are about, again, abundance, prosperity, growth, food. On her dress, there are all these pomegranates. Pomegranates are a symbol of fertility. There's this whole story of Persephone, and you can totally Google, Wikipedia it, and it's a long story, so that's why I'm not going to dwell on it right now in this video. But the pomegranate is a symbol of fertility, and if you Google Wikipedia the story of Persephone, you'll get the references to the story that I'm talking about. And here, because in this one, in this card, she's supposed to be pregnant here. This lady is supposed to be pregnant, so therefore these fertility symbols, these pomegranates, they are really apt over here because she is, quote unquote, fertile. Also, look at the stars on her crown. These are 12 stars. They connect with the 12 signs. Uh, then in her neck, she wears a pearl necklace. These are 7 pearls there, and those connect with the 7 planets. So this deck was printed in 1810, just to be clear. So those were the planets that they had sort of discovered. Not 1810, sorry, 1910. My mistake. This deck was printed in 1910. Those were the planets that were used in traditional astrology back then. Okay. And the way she sits, the cushion, everything, all of that, it's pretty common for pregnant women to sit in that way, apparently. And then you have this glyph of Venus in that heart there. So there's the connection with astrology and the planet Venus. So all of these symbols, if you put it together, the Empress is often connected with the mother archetype, and we know why. She has that whole fertility thing going. She's pregnant herself, and the way she wears the constellations and the planets and everything, like as if they were her personal jewelry, right? That's all Mother Earth, Gaia energy right there. There's also the trees and the food and the abundance and the rivers and the emotions and everything. So all of these things connect together in the Empress card, and we have all these things going on in the Empress card. So if we were to sort of put it all together in a very simple sort of statement or a template, then we would form what I would like to call what I like to call a card story statement. Now, this is not necessarily very comprehensive because all the meanings probably you can see from from the on the screen here what the framework is. It may not necessarily contain all the things in there, but it might contain a few things. But this template essentially gives you a format within which you can work. The first is actually the passive voice, and the one second is in the active voice. And many times you might want to switch from passive to active and from active to passive depending on how you're telling the story. But this is the way you can, this is the template you can actually use to sort of devise a statement within which you can contain the card story. And over a period of time, you will transcend or you will move past this statement. That's the goal, actually, to move past the statement. The statement is just like the stepping stone to the next step, actually, to the next level. And you transcend this statement and you will be able to just form the story as you go. So let's practice. Let's practice with our examples. The temperance card, first and foremost, all right? Uh, in Now let's see, in the environment, the person is doing so and so activity. Right, now if we look here in the temperance card, we didn't necessarily look at the person angle in the temperance card, and this is an angel. He's got a halo, and when he's pouring water from one cup to the next, that is the symbol of transformation there, because this is temperance. This is the process of in alchemy. It is a process whereby you convert silver to gold. That's what's going on here. This is a transformation. This is the growth. Again, this guy, he's also got his eyes closed. Remember from Hermit, eyes closed is looking within. And he's got the halo thing going. So all of that. So he's wise. He's, transforming. He is becoming closer to the divine. And also look at his feet, one foot on land, one foot in water. So there's balance between earth and water, practical and emotions and feelings. So all of that. And temperance is also all about balance and transformation. So let's put this in a statement. Let's put this in within the framework. This is going to be hard for me because personally my challenge is, I can keep talking about stuff, I can just keep writing about stuff as long as you want, but to condense it in one statement is pretty challenging for me. Actually, that's my thing. But it might be easy for you, and I hope it is, because then you can grow from there. So let's see. So in an environment where he has left his ego behind, he has walked a long way. The angel is transforming into something more learned, more advanced, more spiritually evolving into a higher plane by, as he transforms, by finding the balance. Yeah. Or if you want to use the active voice, the angel is transforming into a more spiritually evolved form, uh, after having left his ego behind and coming a long way in life. Okay, that wasn't that bad. What are your interpretations? What are your story statements? Share them in the comments below. Meanwhile, let's look at the next example that we studied, the hermit. Hmm? So how do we say now? In this, he's in the snowy environment, and we know snow is, it can be pretty cold out in the snow. So it's pretty, and it's isolated. There's nothing really in the background except for twilight. And again, twilight, that whole bluish greenish background color of twilight, that again sort of harkens to the gray, the whole meaning of his gray robes being neither black nor white. So twilight is neither daytime nor nighttime. It's an in-between period. So we can say that in this isolated environment, in this isolated in-between space and time and place, the wise old man stands there, you know, analyzing his experiences and holding up the light of his wisdom of those experiences for anybody else to see. Okay, maybe. All right, sounds good. You can work on this. I know I made this slideshow, but I'm recording this live, so really. Then we have the active voice. So the wise old man stands on the snowy peak in the in between time, and he looks within and reflects on his experiences in life, and he is ready to share those experiences and the wisdom with people who want to, you know, with anybody who is interested, maybe. I don't know. All right, so he's ready to share his experiences, but you have to go to him. That's the thing with the hermit. He's the wise old man, right? You have to go to him. He will not come to you. So that's how it works with the hermit. So if you were to do that, the wise old man stands atop the, is holding up his lantern of wisdom and experience to anybody who is willing to go to him in this isolated snowy place that he is in. He's at where he's at. Okay. So let's see, the empress. Okay, this one seems easy enough, I think. So in the lush beauty of the forest and the crops, the empress or the mother sort of rules or governs or watches over all, the growth and the prosperity. Okay, so in the lush atmosphere of the forest, Mother Earth sits and watches over the growth and the abundance of the world around her. Okay, not bad. You could do better. I'm sure you could do better. And let's see the active voice. Mother Earth sits pregnant, waiting and watching as as everything around her goes through the cycle of creation, from the forest to the crops, and everything grows and prospers and fruits and flowers. Hmm. Okay. Okay, not bad. The point is, I'm just doing this really. I just made this slideshow like 5 minutes ago, and I've just started recording this, so it's just popping out of my head the way it is. But over a period of time, like, you can totally practice this, you can work on this, you can practice more and more with all the different cards that you have, and you can find your own voice. That's how we authors say, you know, to find your writing voice. So in the same way, you have to find your storytelling voice. You probably have it already, your own style, your own way of telling stuff, of sharing stuff. Now you have to combine that with all your knowledge and all the information that you have, and bring that uniqueness into your reading, into this, into creating the card story. That's how straightforward it is, really. And yes, although it sounds simple, it's not. It takes a while to get comfortable in that space. All right. So now that we've looked at how you can study or get into the image of the card and analyze, break it up into different sort of component parts and see what each part is all about, and then put it back together in a sort of statement format which helps you get into the story of the card and helps you form the story of the card, helps you get deeper with the story of the card. We're going to look at another angle of why the image of the story or image of the card is more important. Okay, because you'll probably, if you've looked around in the market, you've seen a whole bunch of books with a lot of the cards and the meanings and everything given, and sometimes you have different decks, and many of them come with their own either the little white books or the LWBs, as we like to call them in the tarot world, or some decks are accompanied with a little, you know, more juicy, more thicker, more fatter, more interesting book separately that you can buy, or together with the deck it comes. Either way, but there's either a book there with some deck, and we see that there are decks out there with all kinds of different themes which essentially govern the way the imagery is created or drawn, or the artwork is sort of presented on the card. And because of this, there is a certain similarity, you can say, in the basic structure that the cards follow, but the imagery can take a different turn occasionally. And when that happens, it can be startling, because, you know, not all decks follow a similar pattern, which is a good thing, because this helps you really get into the imagery, it helps you get into the theme of the deck, and it definitely helps you sort of boost your intuitive, creative storytelling abilities. Okay, so the card image is the king, really. It's what rules the interpretation process, because if the image changes, the interpretation will also change, and all of this depends on the theme of the deck. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to look at some very simple examples that will help us compare and understand how this happens. First example, first card, of course, and we're gonna hold it to the sort of golden standard, the Rider Waite, or in this case, universal weight, which is of course the same imagery, recolored, of although, but it's the this imagery which I love, which is sort of the golden standard in the way I look at it, and because many decks have been modeled after this sort of pattern that has been set by the Rider Waite or the Universal Weight deck. So this is your Six of Wands there. And so looking at, if we look at the environment, the person and the symbols, we see, oh, there's, a bunch of people in the background holding wands. Wands, we know, are all about passion and desire, and the whole will to go and do something. Let's make this happen kind of energy. And this guy in the foreground is obviously their leader because he sits on a horse, so he's on a level higher than them. He's not walking on the ground, he's one step up. Horses, boats, chariots, all of these are symbols of movement because they take you from one place to the other. His horse is also pretty well decorated and everything, so he's really someone special. His horse is also something special. It's something, he is someone special for sure, right? Then he wears the laurel wreath on his head, and there's also a laurel wreath on his wand there. And so if you look at the imagery, all of this shows that he's really special, and the laurel wreath is a symbol of success and glory. So he has, he is a leader, he's leading all these people, and he is a successful, special sort of guy to begin with, and that is probably why he is in that position today. So he's successful and he's leading. So these could be the main points of this card. So now, to enhance this story, we compare it with the Six of Fire from the very, very lovely Japaridze Tarot. And this image is so totally different. Even as you look at it, you're like, how is this even similar, right? It's probably not. If you really go deep, maybe you might find some similarities. But here's what's going on in this picture. In the background is an opera theater, perhaps, and there are people sitting up there in the balcony and they're watching what's going on. And in the foreground, we see this lady who is playing the violin on stage. She is the performer on that stage, and the spotlight is on her, and she's playing, and she is entertaining and showing her skills and abilities to all these people who are sitting there appreciating it. So here in this Six of Fire, she is successful. There is that common thread. She's successful and she's able to sort of get their attention and hold their attention with her performance. Okay, but that's where the similarity, you can say, ends, because now she's the center of attention and she is the person that they're all focused on. They're not necessarily going to follow her anywhere, like in the Six of Wands story here with the Rider Waite, but they are listening to her and she holds them in the thrall of her performance. So the meaning shifts a little, the meaning changes a little, the meaning gets a little different. Why? Because the theme is different, because the whole sort of, the energy is different. And so the interpretation of this image, of the Six of Wands, really changes depending on the image. And that is why one of the biggest reasons why many tarot deck readers offer a number of, say, a deck or two or different decks. They like to play with different decks because different kinds of imagery evokes different kind of storytelling skills. And several times you see readers who offer two or three or even more different kinds of decks to the clients for reading, and say, select a deck which the imagery sort of speaks to you. So in that way, what happens is there's a connecting thread. Even the client and the reader both have connected to a certain theme, a certain imagery pattern, and what emerges from that pattern in the reading is what gets, and so everybody can sort of connect with it, both the client and the reader. So that's the whole fun part. And, just for you as a reader to ultimately develop this story. So the whole point is that, the system, the card story system, is not necessarily restricted by a deck. It can flow and it can apply to several decks, different decks, all kinds of decks. Why? Because the imagery governs the story. Okay? Let's look at another example. Ah, the Eight of Swords. Everybody's encountered this, haven't they? Somewhere in their life, somewhere in their readings. This card always brings a big sort of, oh my god. And it's I would say it's a learning experience. Having experienced this card, this situation, is also a learning experience in your life. Sorry, excuse me, in your life. So let's examine it. In the environment, we have all these swords that are stuck in the ground, and even if we look closely in the background, we see. Let me bring out the drawing thing here. What do we see over here? There's a house, maybe like a castle, right? And homes are obviously safe places like sanctuary. Okay, so we see this woman, she's standing there. In the background is a castle, sanctuary, safety, security, warmth, all of that. And in the foreground, she stands surrounded by these 8 swords. Swords in this context are all about mind. These are the thoughts, these are the negative self-talk even that can hold you, because now this is, it looks like it's formed a fence or a border around her. She's also blindfolded and her hands are tied. Okay, so she thinks that all these swords are around her, so she shouldn't move, because if she moves here and there, she might get caught on those swords. So she stays where she is. She does not move, even though her feet are not tied, mind you. She can walk away if she is willing to brush up against a sword or two and risk it, sort of. She can escape the situation. Or if I were to really get more creative, she can actually use the edge of the sword to cut the things that are tying her hands and stuff, like how they show in the movies, and she can really escape that situation. But her fear of either cutting herself up, or her fear that she is so absolutely surrounded that she is not in a position to move, all of this keeps her stuck at where she's at, right? That's the Eight of Swords from the Universal Weight. Now compare that with the Eight of Swords from the Victorian Romantic Tarot, and what do we see? First of all, the background is so totally different. Instead of the house, we have a ship, and it's night time. There's this. Let me bring up my drawing thing here. There's the moon in the sky. Oh, look at that. And there's water, obviously. Yeah, and then there's the ship. So, did she arrive on this ship, or is she waiting to leave on this ship? Right? This story can be interpreted so many different ways. And of course, her hands are tied. Look very closely. Let me do that drawing tool thing. See, her hands are tied. But if you look, it doesn't show whether her feet are tied. And look at the way she looks up at, maybe there's someone standing there or something. So, this woman, and again, now the theme here is the Victorian Romantic time period. So, we are looking at someone who is either actually a damsel in distress, or she's playing a damsel in distress. We don't know whether she, again, your intuition will tell you whether she's arrived here or she's gonna go somewhere. But the point is, if she wants to escape, she really actually can. Maybe, at least give it a shot, but she's just sitting there looking all helpless and stuff. So, that helplessness becomes a common feature, I would say, or acting helpless, or feeling helpless. It becomes a very common theme in both the cards, but everything else, because the ship and water, because ship could be an escape, or the ship could lead to more trouble. But here in the background of the Universal Weight, home is actually sanctuary. So all of this, there's so many things which are different. Here in the Eight of Swords of the Universal Weight, she doesn't necessarily become the damsel in distress because it's her own mind that sort of, puts her in this weird spot. But in the Victorian romantic tarot, the image, I don't know, but I personally feel that she's totally sitting there with the whole pouty face and everything, looking big blue eyes. Oh, I'm so the damsel in distress. Definitely it evokes that feeling in my mind when I look at her. So both these cards, both are Eight of Swords, but they evoke different feelings, different emotions when you look at it. And so the story, especially when you're doing a reading and within the context of the spread, the story will be slightly different. The color, the flavor, everything will change. Let's see one more example. Why? Because I can't help myself. And here's the Four of Pentacles. Hmm? This guy, I every time I look at this guy, I feel a little bit sorry for him. He's got a pentacle on top of his head. It could be interpreted as, he's got money on his mind. The way he holds on to the pentacle close to his chest there, right? He loves his money, he holds it close to his chest. And of course there's money, or other coins behind underneath his feet as well. So maybe he's got some hidden sources of money as well. But the way I look at it, and again the background is the entire city. Do you see behind him in the background? All those. This is again a very, side note, a very, I would say, a very interesting feature of all of, or rather many of Pamela Coleman Smith's drawings or paintings or artwork here, especially in this deck, is, you have that double line there, and then you have a background picture and a foreground picture. It sort of evokes. She used to work in theater, creating paintings and backdrops, paintings for that were used as backdrops for plays and such. So it's kind of sort of stealthily come into the drawings that she did for this deck, maybe. Anyhow, so coming to the story here of the Four of Pentacles, maybe this is a guy who derives his identity from the amount of money he has. Or maybe this is a guy who's realized that, after all his experiences in the world, that ultimately it's money, or the amount of money that you have that, governs how important people will, make you feel or treat you. But he's definitely, a lot of his self-worth emerges from the money that he has. He's really, money, he's not necessarily one of those people who could be a sharp businessman. He could be, but it depends on other cards. But the feeling that he brings about in my head right now is this. And compare that with your Four of Gardens from the Japaritsi Tarot, and you see a totally different picture. So this guy, here you have one person who is playing the puppet master, and the puppet he holds looks very, very weirdly like him. So on one hand, he likes to show to the world that, hey, I'm the puppet master, I'm pulling all the strings. But on the other hand, he likes to show that, hey, I'm just a puppet, and my strings are being pulled by someone else. So you could see that this guy likes to be very manipulative. At least that is the feeling that's bringing up, because behind him is a landscape, just a regular landscape of the world with trees and bees and flowers and birds and all of that. But the puppet, he looks, behind the stage behind him is like a scene from a living room, maybe. So in the rest of the world, in front of the world, this guy behaves like, he doesn't have any control, and there's someone else pulling all his strings, really. But in the background, nobody's really pulling his strings. He is smart. He's portraying himself this way. So this guy comes across as more manipulative, more cunning, really, compared to this other guy from the Four of Pentacles of the Universal Way, who really, I feel sorry for for the universal weight guy, but I don't feel sorry for the Four of Gardens guy, right? Although he both, they have a little sorry little face or a sorry little expression on their faces. So again, you can also spend some time looking at all these images. Go back and forth in the video if you like. Go back and see the images. Or if you have the deck, that would be awesome too. Just put those cards side by side. See what the story is. See what the environment, person symbols, what the combination is bringing up for you. And look at the imagery across 2 or more decks like that. And see what they are talking to you, see what they're trying to say to you, because ultimately, like I said, the image governs the story. The image will evoke the different feelings that will help you interpret the story. So it is the image and the story within that image of the card which is essentially going to be the key for you to unlocking what the card has to say. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this presentation. That was quite a video, wasn't it? But I really, 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 really hope that the method that I outlined in the video, that you'd give it a shot. Give it a shot and see how it works for you. Totally get into it for a little bit. See how it makes sense to you. Because once you break down the card image into its 3 component parts and look at each part sort of separately and then put it together, you get the complete picture, so to speak, and you get the card story and all the interpretations of the card. Literally, I mean, obviously they emerge from that story, right? They always, that's the story is the starting point of the interpretation. So once you've got the card story, you can make as many lists of keywords and meanings and what have you as you like, but the starting point is the story within the image of the card, and that's where everything sort of starts happening, especially in the tarot cards. So I genuinely hope that the process that I have outlined for you was helpful, is useful for you, and that you can, incorporate that with your journaling. I mean, this is what I do, right? When I get a new deck, it may or may not have a book with it, right? Sometimes there's just the little white book. Sometimes there's like an actual proper book. The book or even the little white book, there's probably an introduction. You get the idea of the theme, right? So whether it is a vampire themed book or a zombie themed, not book, but sorry, deck, or why am I even coming up with vampires and zombies? Ugh, I've been watching. Uh, Never mind. TV is a bad influence. Right. Uh, no, the thing is, like, for example, if it's a Japaridzi tarot is all surrealistic images, or the Victorian romantic tarot, like I had in the examples, that's all, it's a very period based sort of theme. So all the imagery confirms to that time period, and the values and the way things are expressed are kind of from that time period. So the book will help you understand the basic sort of ethos or the world or the theme of the deck imagery by and large, and then you get into each card and look at the story that is emerging from it, and you can journal it, in one of your, in whatever journaling method or style you like. You journal it, you write about it, and once you've got that story going, you can go deeper, you can write the whole story, as you can expand it as much as you want, and then you can maybe write down the 2 or 3 sort of keywords or key phrases, so that way it will stick in your head. And or those keywords then become the launching points. Even the story and the images are also your launching point, but then the keywords also become the launching point, and then all of this is there in your journal. That's how I do it. That's how I sort of learn a new deck. I'm totally a big fan of journaling. I just love it. So you know. But there are people who maybe don't like writing pen and paper so much. That's fine. In your phone usually there's this what am I call it, the voice memo app. That's a great app. What I do is, if I'm really like tired of writing, or I just don't want to write, I just want to close my eyes and just talk. You can totally record what you have to say in that voice memo app, and then you usually many you can have those recordings in your phone, and then maybe make a little mini album of sorts. Be creative. Make a mini album of sorts in your in your phone, or in any where you listen, and then you have everything on hand on your phone or on your devices or wherever you want to listen to it. So yeah, that's a cool method. I've never really gone and done the album bit, but why not? So here, I hope that this method is helpful for you, that this method comes in handy for you. And now here's another storytelling technique that I'm going to employ. It's called the cliffhanger. The thing is that I've put this video up here for a very, very good reason. I'm not going to reveal that reason yet. You'll have to wait for next week for that, because I'm going to be recording another video for that. But this reason, and so will be revealed, and we in that, what I'm going to do, what I'm planning to do is I'm going to take this the next level. So so have fun. I hope that this method is useful. I hope that the links and the blog post is also useful, and I hope that you can totally get into this process, and I hope that you can join me again next week, where I am going to take this to the next level. Thank you so much for your love and your patience. And seriously, anybody who's going to watch this hour plus long video deserves a medal. And I deserve a bigger medal for making this video. But okay, anyway, so click like, subscribe, share this video on Facebook, wherever you are, whatever groups you're in. I'm obviously, of course, going to share this video everywhere, but you can share it too. You can watch it there, you can like it, all of that, social media love. And follow me on Instagram, Twitter, whatever your social media platform of choice. I'm everywhere. Okay, not everywhere, but you get the point. And so totally like it, share it, subscribe it, and spread the word, because from this video onwards, things are going to get real interesting. Alright then, enough of the cliffhangers. See you again next week. Bye now.